I want to talk about Austin Ekeler. Austin Ekeler is one that I think is a little bit intriguing for me. You look at what he did last year, and I'm expecting regression. He had 20 touchdowns.
Yes.
Okay.
He had 12 rushing touchdowns. He had 8 receiving touchdowns. With where you're drafting Austin Ekeler right now, his ADP is running back 3. You're drafting him around Derrick Henry, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase. Like, I'm curious, Najee, Devontae Adams, for somebody that we are expecting so much touchdown regression from. Some.
Yeah.
Do you think that he is still worth a top 5 pick within this offense? Or do you
Yes.
think that there's enough regression? Okay.
Yes. This offense is fantastic. And look, his expected touchdown total last year based on his usage was 11.1. So it was almost half of that number. I do expect the touchdowns to go down. I've been over this. I have columns on the site. It's inevitable, right? Like 95% of the time these guys drop off, usually substantially. That's okay. He could score 12 touchdowns and still be a top 5 fantasy running back, and there's a variety of reasons. I mean, we know how good he is in the passing game, right? He was second in targets among running backs last season. He has 54 plus catches each of the past 3 seasons, but also he was over 200 carries last season, right?
First time
14th
ever.
Exactly. 14th in the NFL in that department. There's been some talk from him that says maybe he wants that load lighten a little bit. That's okay. You know, he can still see enough volume to be a top 5 fantasy running back. By the way, extremely high floor. The only running back with 9.5 points or more in every single game last season. And by the way, one more note, last season wasn't his first breakout season. He's been a top 3 fantasy running back 2 of the past 3 seasons. So he's been doing this for a few years. I think he does it again.
I've got him as the 3rd player on my board. He was who I was teasing earlier when I mentioned a guy that I am higher on than most in terms of overall ranks. And I'm going to make a lot of the same points that Mike made, just in a slightly different way. So Mike mentioned the receiving upside. Last year, he was 2nd in running back targets. But over the past 3 seasons, he leads all running backs in targets, catches, receiving yards, receiving touchdowns. Mike, the author of the OTD stat, even that number 11.1, even if he hit what he was supposed to get, 11 touchdowns is massive. That's a huge number. I don't need Austin Ekeler to score 20 per year. If he gets somewhere between 8 and 12, totally happy about that. By the way, he's had 8 receiving touchdowns in 2 seasons. He can achieve that. It's an elite offense. And Mike mentioned 9.5 fantasy points in every game he played last year. Put differently, he was a top 30 back in every single game that he played. You had zero bust weeks whatsoever from Austin Ekeler. Let's not forget that on the eve of the season last year, he got hurt, and we all thought there was a chance he might miss a month of time. He played well. He had 20-plus touches in 9 games last year. That was tied for the most amongst running backs. For a guy who's supposedly diminutive and you would think more susceptible to injury, he's held up extremely well. The offense is awesome. We just talked about his quarterback. He has a chance to be pretty good in this league, too.
Heck yeah.
And friend of the fantasy industry.
Yes, he is.
Yes, he is. Absolutely. All right. This insurance bag is brought to you by Geico. Switch to Geico and see all the ways that you could save. What about Isaiah Spiller? We've talked about this. If we see a touchdown regression from Austin Ekeler, do you see Isaiah Spiller being able to have a fantasy relevant role within this offense outside of being an insurance back for Austin Ekeler?
He's they've added a lot of running backs the past few years, usually in day 3 of the draft, and I haven't really been thrilled with any of them. Intrigued by them from
Is
fantasy.
Spiller the latest in that trend?
No, but I like Spiller.
Do you?
I like him a
Okay.
lot. He was the 3rd running back on my board pre-draft. He's 217 pounds, super productive, super efficient at the college level. I think he's going to take that job. He's going to be essentially the Justin Jackson, maybe what Melvin Gordon used to be, kind of right before he left. So I'm intrigued by him, and that's why I like him as a late-round flyer, because I think he will eventually take that job and maybe score some of them touchdowns that Ekeler is inevitably going to lose this season. So I like him as a late flyer, but probably not a lot of weekly value, standalone value. But if Ekeler misses time, Spiller, if he's that guy, if he's the guy,
Right.
he's going to be an RB2, maybe an RB1. Had
a disappointing pre-draft process, did not run well. And that was one of the concerns that people had about him coming into the NFL, was that timed speed. I guess I'm a little bit less married to the idea of having to use a late round pick on any Chargers running back, only because I truly believe that if Austin Ekeler were to miss time, it may be that Spiller leads the way, but it could be that this is not in terms of age or stature, but this might look more like the Ravens last year, where it was we need a bunch of hands. So we're going to make the backfield work. I think it might be more of, you'll see some Spiller, and maybe he gets 50% of the work, and then maybe Joshua Kelly gets 30% of the work, and then maybe a passing down back who they add at some point gets 20% of the work as well. So I'm okay with the player. I don't put as much of a priority on as Mike does.
I'm just anti-Kelly, anti-Roundtree, anti-anyone else.
Roundtree
I think
as well,
Spiller
yeah.
would be the guy in a great offense. That's why that's my guy.
How about if Austin Ekeler gets hurt, they just focus on throwing to any of the amazing skill position pass catchers they
They
have?
do it a
Spiller
lot,
too,
so
yeah.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.